Hello and welcome to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. Today we're going to be speaking in depth on a Tibetan foot soak that is really one of the secrets to our success clinically. And it's also a foot soak that's currently being used all over the world in select clinics. Now, our clinic really rests on this recipe. Today we're not only going to reveal it to you, we're also going to explain its inner workings from both a traditional and scientific vantage point. We treat many people for nerve pain, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, gynecological and endocrine disorders such as diabetes. Our secret weapon is usually a mixture of Tibetan and Chinese herbs from the Gansu region of Sichuan. It's an ethnically Tibetan region in one of the most pristine environments on Earth. Its high altitude and unique geography give the botanicals from this region special advantages. The Tibetan people have been bioengineering incredible botanical blends with herbal strategies from India, China, and from throughout the Himalayas. These wild-crafted herbs were once reserved for the emperors of China and the lamas of Tibet. Today, because of our special connections in this region, we were able to get them to use for our patients. The same quality once reserved for the imperial family is now soothing the aches and pains of people all over the planet. There are 8 herbs in this foot soak, as well as a number of special minerals. The 8 herbs symbolize the 8 sacred symbols of Tibetan Buddhism. We all know that mental tension can cause pain in the shoulders. Fear can lodge itself in the legs as we want to run in a flight response, but we can't. These relationships between the mental states and physical body are well understood in this region. An injury to the body can influence your mental state, and your mental state can influence pain and tension throughout the body. It burns calories while you sit there, and by way of nitric oxide, it begins setting the stage for you to transform fat into heat. And if you live in a cold region, this is incredibly important. This is very important for the Tibetan Buddhist practices which have been popularized by Wim Hof. The Tummo meditation and the act of turning fat into heat requires very good peripheral circulation. It increases the heart rate as though you're exercising, and this is essential for those of us who are no longer able to run and jump like we used to. Being able to have the cardiovascular exercise and being able to break a sweat is just crucial for getting our body's processes back in the right direction. We find that these are exceptional for nerve pain and neuropathies of the feet, eyes, gout, and arthritis. This mixture addresses pain caused by the immune system imbalance, which tends to cause pain that wanders from limb to limb. It aids pain and inflammation caused by gut dysbiosis that creates more of a heavy pain sensation, and it's associated with brain fog. It gears down nerve pain caused by deregulation of cortisol and nitric oxide, marked by burning or electric sensations. And it influences prostaglandin regulation for sharp pain and has beneficial effects on menstrual cycles. It's not ideal for diseases which are made worse by increasing circulation. So in the midst of a really bad cold, these could make the cold worse as they increase circulation and allow the cold to spread throughout the body. Likewise, these are not ideal for a metastatic cancer. To understand how these work, we need to look herb by herb and as a system how they're working on the body. First thing to understand is that these herbs are affecting the body transdermally. They are going through the skin. In high school biology, they told us that nothing absorbed through the skin. It's an old and incorrect idea that betrays common sense. If this is so, then why does poison oak make you itch? Why do so many poisons travel through the skin and cause systemic effects on the body? The truth is that plants can affect us systemically via terpenes, alkaloids, and volatile oils. So these foot soaks work similar to an herbal poultice. However, herbal patches and poultices are dependent on peripheral blood circulation. If not much blood is getting to the skin, then they don't work very well. It's important to not only place herbs against the skin, it's vital to increase circulation at the same time. Using a poultice or oil blend in a sauna can work very well because it's taking care of both parts. It's introducing the skin to the botanical chemical while increasing blood circulation so it can be absorbed. For sedentary people, adding a poultice has very limited use. They work very well for farmers in China, people who are very active, who are almost in a constant state of sweating. I've seen the poultices work incredibly well for local pain. In the United States, for people who may work on a computer or have a sedentary lifestyle, I see very minimal effects. So by working with an herbal foot soak, you're increasing circulation while at the same time introducing the botanical chemicals through the skin into the bloodstream. And the effects they have on us are quite extraordinary. One of the first herbs in this formula is called Du Yi Wei, and it stops hemorrhaging. So if you have internal bleeding from an injury or inflammation that's causing extravasation of the blood vessels, this stops it. It promotes red blood cell production, it kills pain, and it's an antioxidant. Now, if it stops bleeding, is there any damage or danger of it causing too much clotting? Well, not really, because when you look at the formula as a whole, most of these other herbs are actually blood thinning in nature, such as qianghuo. This is an interesting herb because Lan went to the place where qianghuo was discovered. This is where the highest quality qianghuo is. And she met with the mayor. And in talking with him and explaining the whole project that we were doing, we get special permission to use an herb which is otherwise specifically designated for the elite of Beijing. This is not for common people. So we're able to get imperial herbs, which are today used for the elite in China, into this formula. And having high quality qianghuo is very important. This herb is traditionally used for arthritis pain. It's anti-inflammatory. It inhibits fungus. So fungi in the body can have direct effects on pain signaling, and this helps to kill it. Incredibly, this herb helps with irregular heart rate. So if people have a heart rate that's too slow or too fast or has an irregular rhythm, this herb does wonders to help regulate the timing of the heart. We use this extensively with our cardiology patients, and just using this foot soak has been able to help restore their normal heart rhythm. And this herb works very well in conjunction with another Tibetan herb called Hongjingtian, or Tibetan rhodiola. This herb increases oxygen in the blood, improves immune function, and helps people to get through fatigue. So it's incredibly good for chronic fatigue disorder or people who have been in a state of chronic inflammation and pain long term. Another herb in this formula is Zhang Honghua. This lowers cholesterol, reduces clotting, is cardioprotective, and is a powerful antioxidant. Most of the blood clots that cause people to have a heart attack or stroke are found in the legs. So by increasing circulation at the same time using herbs to reduce these clots, it can drastically help to improve longevity. There have even been studies that if you want to live 10 years longer, have both of your legs removed. This is just how important the vasculature of the legs are and how crucial they are in blood clot formation, which eventually causes a cerebrovascular incident. So by doing these foot soaks as a regular part of health maintenance, it's theoretically possible to fend off heart attacks and strokes. And this is something that's very commonly used throughout Tibet and China. Another wonderful herb in this formula is called Zhangqiangpu. This has a mild tranquilizing effect to relax people. It's antibacterial and has regulatory effects on the digestive system. This is so crucial for diseases involving the gut-brain axis. Some people can't digest anything. Forget about giving them herbs or supplements or even getting them the kind of diet that they need. However, by using Zhangqiangpu transdermally, it's still able to affect their digestion in a very positive way without asking their stomach to digest anything new. Another herb that works similarly to this is Kushen. it inhibits bacterial biofilms. Now, this cannot be understated. Biofilms are associated with most chronic diseases in the body. Bacterial overgrowths begin to spread throughout the body. Your body sets some inflammatory fire, and these little buggers have gene expressions which cause up to 20% of themselves to become mucus, snot. So they cover themselves in snot to avoid the burn of the inflammation as your body goes into fever mode. And by covering themselves, it allows them to go through the body and spread. And once the inflammation in your body goes down, they begin eating other tissues. So bacterial biofilms are associated with Parkinson's, dementia. Basically, pick a chronic disease, they will be associated with biofilms. And in particular, obesity is associated with biofilms. The systemic inflammation causes the body to store fat. Kushen, in addition, is antifungal, antibacterial, and antiviral. It's antiparasitic as well. Aye is another wonderful herb. It has very strong volatile oils which transfer transdermally. It's antibacterial, antifungal, and it inhibits blood clots. This also increases the secretion of bile in the gallbladder, which can help you burn fat. Ganjiang is another wonderful herb in this formula. It's liver protective, protects the gastric mucosa of the stomach lining, is anti-inflammatory, it's a painkiller, it's antibacterial, and it prevents clotting. These Tibetan foot soaks contain a special Tibetan salt called karucha. It's incredibly high in potassium, calcium, iron, aluminum, titanium, manganese, barium, strontium, magnesium, copper, silicone, sulfur, which gives it this kind of volcanic hot spring quality and acts as a donor for hydrogen sulfide, which is associated with the Klotho gene, which signals longevity in mice. So once they block the Klotho gene in mice, the mice live a third as long as they otherwise would live. So it's this mixture of minerals and herbs and the delicate blend between them that gives this foot soak its incredible ability to help so many people. It's important to understand how the foot soak works on blood circulation throughout the body. Initially, you put your feet in the water, and the water is way too hot for you. It can be a little tricky to do, but the heat itself will signal the body to dilate those blood vessels. This is creating new pathways for communication by way of the blood vessels. It allows all of the tissue in the area to become oxygenated and well fed. If we think of the body as a snow globe, anything outside the cells will drain downward, and it tends to drain down into the legs and feet. You can just think of it building up sediment and rotting there, which it does. It has oxidative damage to the body by way of the inflammatory reaction. Initially, you put your feet in there, blood circulation opens up in the feet, and this has a mild tranquilizing effect. This initial vasodilation will also lower blood pressure. So if you want a nice foot soak that's going to have a tranquilizing effect and help you get to sleep, then you'll start with the foot soak and just allow the feet themselves to get warm. But you're going to stop before the heat travels throughout the whole body. After this, the next stage is that the heat will begin to rise up the legs. The first time you do a foot soak, they may only rise halfway up the shin. As the vasculature improves, you'll gradually be able to feel the heat past the knees and up through the hips to the lower back. This is where you get a lot of healing taking place within the knees and the lumbar area. This is where you get a lot of pain relief. As it continues upward to the chest and heart, people will begin to feel an increase in heart rate. Now, doing a prolonged foot soak in a way that increases the heart rate is not ideal if people have high blood pressure. For high blood pressure, you want to do a shorter foot soak. However, if people are in a state of weakness, the blood pressure is not a problem, and they want to really increase the energy of the body, really activate that mitochondria, and get that cardiovascular effect, then allowing the heat to go up and cause the heart to beat faster can be a very good thing. The final stage of the foot soak is that the heat will travel up through the head and cause the person to break a sweat. Now, after you break a sweat, that's a great time to dry off, dry your head, dry your feet, bundle up, and then go about your day. So these are the 4 stages that you tend to see. Initially, it draws qi down, said to do traditionally, as it opens up the blood circulation of the feet. This stage relates to winter, just as a tree will have most of its nutrients in the root area during winter. It draws the sap down into the core, into the roots. This represents winter. Spring is the rising effect. If you think of shoots going up in spring, the act of the heat coming up through the legs is spring. The summer stage is when the heart begins to really pump. And this is similar to the way working outside in the summer heat would cause increased heart contractility. Finally, the autumn stage is when there's sweating. This is the end of the cycle, as rising has given way to descending again. Generally, during the autumn stage, as people break a sweat, they'll feel a feeling as though their lungs are open. This increased ability to breathe is often accompanied with different types of pain killing as well. So the pain that tends to wander from place to place will tend to go at this stage. Then afterwards, with pain in the body killed, with the heart contractility increased, with blood circulation increased, and with the feeling that there's bronchodilation, that the lungs are open, it becomes much easier to get around and walk, start some yoga or tai chi, whatever, because ultimately the only thing that is going to truthfully fix chronic pain is movement. The foot soaks are a great help, acupuncture is a great help, physical therapy is a great help, and ultimately movement is how you're going to get there. The foot soaks create a window of opportunity to help heal and restore the body and help people to go through longer periods of movement without pain or fatigue. So is this foot bath a detox? Well, it will indirectly have detoxification effects. However, it doesn't do this by way of magic. Because we have the sedimentation that goes down to the feet, increasing the blood circulation to the feet is kind of like taking a snow globe and shaking it up. So as all of these impurities make it back into the bloodstream, your body becomes aware of damage which has occurred and of oxidation that exists there which may have been cut off from the rest of the body. This signals macrophages, which are white blood cells, to go throughout your body in this area, eating away the dead tissue. And this is the stage where sometimes people report an increase in pain. How is it you're getting an increase in pain? Well, because this damage has been sequestered. If you just think about some big messy room and you're having company over, you just shut the door. Well, oftentimes with the body, you get some inflammatory response and the body just shuts it down, says, you know what, I can't deal with this right now, I'm going to deal with it later. But later never comes and it gets forgotten about. So as you open up that area and start to clean out that dead tissue, some of that dead tissue gets reintroduced to the body, and the body as a whole says, whoa, where did that come from? There must be some new injury, and it can increase the pain signal for a couple of days. Now, it's not always that pain increases, but it can be based on the person's individual history. Another, I wouldn't really say side effect, it's just an effect, is that because of the macrophages eating away that dead tissue, it can cause an inflammatory response which causes itching. I see this quite often, particularly with people over 70 years of age. As they begin the foot soak, for 1 or 2 days, they may get intense itching around the feet. And this is the same kind of itching that you get as a wound is healing. So if you get cut a few days later as it's healing, it starts to itch. The macrophages aren't only eating away dead tissue, they're also rebuilding that tissue. It's just beautiful the way that these, so-called killer cells that are supposed to just be eating away, they're also the builders. They also help to restore tissue. And part of this is an itching sensation. So if there's a slight increase in pain, that's normal. If there's a slight increase in itching, also normal. And it's also great in terms of prognosis, because when there is a reaction like this, then you can be sure that these areas of damage which have been sequestered, traditionally called blood stasis, or think of it like venous insufficiency, these areas that are sequestered and damaged are now being reintroduced into the body. We're getting infrastructure into that area, and that's going to allow the entire region to be in thriving once again. Now, many people who use these foot soaks report having a week or even 2 weeks of pretty vivid dreams. They've asked me to explain what this is all about. From a modern scientific point of view, the best I can do is suggest that blood carries hormonal signals. And it's possible that some of this dead tissue that's been sequestered is now reintroduced into the bloodstream, and possibly there's still some information, just like a scent may trigger a memory. Maybe something kicking around in the bloodstream from that time is re-triggering something. It's very vague, hypothetical, probably ridiculous. And the simple answer is, I'm not really sure from a modern standpoint. From a traditional standpoint, it's said to be going through the body and clearing out negative karma. As you may have trauma lodged in the body somewhere, it's helping you to sort this out. It's helping you at a very physical level to release the effects of emotion on the body. This can be very profound for some people. This can be very life-changing for some people, and it's not something I typically will prep people for. People come in with back pain. I don't say, oh, hey, this is going to maybe bring up some stuff from your childhood. I don't know if it will or if it won't. What I tend to see is that the pain goes away pretty quickly, and oftentimes without people having to relive trauma. The dreams may get a little weird, generally not nightmarish, but just a little bit vivid and odd, and then that hold on the body is gone. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of the kind of therapies that involve people to relive trauma again and again. I don't necessarily think it's necessary or healthy. But getting your blood to take care of what may be hormonal information that's kicking around in there from the past, rewiring the brain in different ways. What I've seen from taking approaches that lean more in this direction is that people can have dramatic positive changes in their life without having to relive ugly chapters of it. Now, this is part of it that I prefer, and many people do as well. So if bad dreams come up, if weird dreams come up, if memories which have been hidden away that suddenly reappear come up, maybe that there's a link between blood circulation, hormones, nervous system, immune system, and memory. In terms of a scientific point of view, all of this is very new. The best I can do at this stage is traditional. I think it's also worth mentioning that this entire project is being done by incredibly wonderful people who are working cooperatively and as a whole. We're working with local Tibetan doctors. We're working with herb gatherers who are wildcrafting this. We have a long history working with people in this region, and now we're working with Tibetan doctors with respect for the cultural and spiritual traditions of the regions. All of our foot soaks have been blessed by a Buddhist priest. We're working hand in hand with local government in a way that helps to preserve these herb-growing regions. In using this for pain, you're actually helping the ecology of some very precious areas of the world. In addition to this, we're working with local Tibetan charities, so partial proceeds from this go back into the community. They go to help Tibetan kids who have been crippled. We recently helped, by way of some local people there, helped kids to get shoes and a library. We're not showing up as, hey, we're the Americans to save you. That's ridiculous, and ultimately that's propaganda. We are working tactfully with local groups of Tibetans to get the work done in a way that isn't going to make the nightly news, but it is something that's making a true positive change in the area. And the people who are in charge of these charities are friends of ours, so we know there's nothing screwy going on about it. If you're using this, it's important to know that you're actually protecting the ecology of the region. You're helping to preserve the culture and traditions in that region. So much of modern day use and consumption comes at the expense of people in other areas, expense of the ecology of that region. The wildcrafting that's done is done responsibly. So let's say that people come across a bunch of duiwei. They may only take 20% of it and leave the rest to make sure that it's growing and thriving for the next year and the year after that. In helping yourself through the physical and emotional pains that you've had through life, you're also supporting the ecology and culture of the region. I'd like to personally thank you for making this decision, because not only is this medical therapy the most effective that I've found, and really the most bang for the buck, because you're not ultimately dependent on a practitioner. This is something you can do yourself at home. The more you know, the more you're able to do yourself, the more you're able to achieve self-sufficient health without dependence on somebody else. And this is really a beautiful state to be in. And then to know that what you're doing is making a positive impact in the world, I believe also has an effect on the treatment and the way that you view the treatment. Taking certain drugs which are creating systemic problems in society, which are created in such a way as to damage the earth and are sold in a way that is very predatory, is ultimately not something that's going to be sustainable for any of us in the long run. So I want to really thank you for making this choice and opting for a more natural solution.